really quick about exactly what they felt was essential and what was not essential. And I am so glad I just checked, because I don't know if you guys, how closely you guys followed the show, but I've been missing a couple days. And it's because I get everything situated, and then I do the virtual class, and I got to unplug my mic for that. And so I got to close all the programs that are associated with my mic. Otherwise, when I plug my mic back in, it won't identify them. So, if I leave the program open, it's like, yeah, you don't have a mic, dude. Fuck you. And so I got to plug the mic. I got to close the tab out that I'm doing my virtual meeting in, or virtual class in, or whatever. Close that out. Plug the microphone back in. Then open up everything else. And one of the things I've been forgetting to open has been my recording program. And so I've actually missed a couple of episodes because of this. Oh well, they were excellent. If you caught them live, you're that much further ahead than everybody else. But yeah, so that's the reward for your live patronage. And we're on RadioCrypto.com Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, just in case you didn't know that already. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that beforehand, other than bread needs butter. And if you're not making the butter out there for the bread, then cops go unemployed, and so do city employees. And I think that harsh reality was coming due. I think in all honesty, I really feel like the mayors and governors got together sometime after the Greta Thunberg thing fell through, and during the time that it was the whole global warming thing was being pushed. They had either made agreements or tacit agreements or whatever that they were going to get together and they were going to shut the economy down, the entire economy, or as much of it as they possibly could shut down. They were going to issue these executive orders, which to my knowledge isn't actually a thing that a governor can do. I think executive powers refers to the executive, i.e. the president, not necessarily the governor. So, and to that point, everywhere that it's these government-mandated executive orders have been brought to court, they have been thrown out. I have yet to see a single case where they have been upheld in the face of the public interest and all that. So, I think they got together, and I don't want to call it conspire, because, to some extent it's their job to be managers of their area or their district or their state or whatever. But at the point where they're actually doing things, or their policies would be doing things that would be harming people, like maybe irreparably, their loss of their business, loss of their customer base, loss of everything that they'd worked for. And so I think they got together, and I think they said, we're going to do this thing, and we're all going to have to collaborate, and they did. And so here we are with it. And the problem with it is that the only thing that we've been going by has been their edicts and their policies. And not necessarily because, there's so many people dropping dead from COVID that, we got to fucking put an end to this epidemic right now. No. We've been bumbling around on fictional numbers, inflated numbers all the way around. We've been directed by people that have either direct financial interest in the outcome or a particular policy. And we still have people unknowingly promulgating those, like this idea of vaccination. I don't give a fuck if they do get a vaccine. I'm not getting fucking vaccinated. I don't give a fuck if it bars me from going into bars and going into restaurants and stuff. So, I mean, literally, I saw that from my, I guess it was one of my relatives sent that in a message to me, that they'd read that shit somewhere. I'm thinking to myself, do you have any idea how badly that will irreparably harm a lot of businesses? I mean, because the public's already fulminating against shit like, directions on how to operate within somebody's private business, or i.e. a store, whether they can wear masks or... They're already fulminating against that shit. And now you want to tell me I can't shop there if I can't get if I didn't get vaccinated? Fuck you. You don't need my money. Go die. I don't care. You don't want to be in business. You obviously don't want to be in business because you're asking something of me that I would never ask you. I would never go up to a store manager and say, hey, is everybody here vaccinated? If not, I'm just going to take my money elsewhere. If you're going to fucking treat me like that, I am going to take my money elsewhere, and I'm going to benefit somebody over you. And I don't give a fuck what kind of policy you're trying to drive. Yeah, I don't care. You think you're doing it for the greater good of humanity or whatever. Fuck you. You don't get to tell me what to do with my body. Same thing applies, to women with their reproductive rights. Well, I have rights over directing my health. And that includes determining whether or not I want to wear a mask, whether or not I want a vaccine. These are my choices, not yours. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And we're going to start with some body count, because that's just where we start things. It's just, it's tradition. And, so yeah, here we go. Body count, the ski mask way. Here on Coin Metal, First Dance. And that was Sepultura with Altered State. Man, I gotta randomize that again just to make this fucking... God. I don't know what it is. Something about it. Just... I gotta find somewhere in the it's gotta be somewhere in the preferences or in the options or something buried deep that makes that fucking menu do that. Anyway, I'm sure you've all had that experience where you're in the dark and you hear the container that's got your pot in it fall over, and you wonder to yourself, did I have the cap on that? Anyway. As far as what we're going to get into today, I've got a lot of good stuff. And, let's see here. No, whatever. Saw something else on my browser that does not apply, is not pertaining to this. But I wanted to cover this first one because, crypto scams are endemic in this space. I will say this, though. Out of all of the projects that are in crypto, I would say the vast majority of them involve people that are ardent supporters of what they're doing. They believe in what they're doing. It's not based on trying to rip people off. However, there is a small percentage of people out there that are trying to rip people off. I would argue that this segment of the market is much smaller than it is in the legacy markets. However, it's a matter of timing. Because, if you were to go back to a time that I much laud, the period about, I want to say like 2014 through 2016. 2017, things started chilling out a little bit, but yeah, 2014 through 16, or... I don't know. Yeah, 2014 through about 2016, I would say was one of those eras where this space was a lot more crowded with people that were just simply trying to horn in on the popularity of Bitcoin, and for some of the right reasons too. That it proof of work networks such as Bitcoin solve an age-old problem with regard to who owns what. It provided us a means to do that digitally and globally in a matter of minutes. And that was never done. That was never possible before with the level of settlement security that we have in Bitcoin. And so, as anything like that would draw some sort of interest as far as, people interested in money and making of it, of course, there are those that want to make it without doing any of the real work. And so, I like to make note of them on this show because, I don't want you to get ripped off. I want you to be able to navigate in this space safely and responsibly, or at least as safely and responsibly as is reasonably possible. Anyway, this thing's on somagnews.com. New Ponzi from Plus Token scams. Woe Token stole 1 billion Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. That's $1 billion in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. This is by Leonard Manson, and it was authored May 17th, 2020. So yes, penis. New Chinese threat. Woe Token. According to local reports, the trial began in Yancheng City, Binhai Country People's Court, against 6 defendants allegedly carrying out the Woe Token project on May 14th. More specifically, the court specifically accused criminals of organizing and managing multi-level marketing activities, hiding false stories, providing misleading information, and hiding income and even crime. As if that other stuff wasn't crime. Moreover, Chinese officials learned of the Woe Token project for the first time in August of 2018. All defendants had different responsibilities within the organization, from hiring technical staff and building fraudulent platforms to creating attractive online and offline promotional campaigns. The platform worked without any real trading. Instead, questionable marketing messages claimed that it worked as an intelligent online crypto wallet that automatically profits for non-participating users. That doesn't sound very likely. Thanks to its MLM-based operations and fast profit-making application as a crypto wallet, Woe Token has been compared to another China-based Pumice Plus Token fraudulent plan. In addition, popular industry commentator Devi Wan said, quote, "The chief offender in Woe Token was previously one of the key scammers in Plus Token. Stolen Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies." According to the report, Woe Token operated from July 2018 to October 2019. It worked as a classic MLM project, but it undoubtedly had a high number of hierarchical levels. During this period, 715,249 people were registered on the platform. Woe Token has captured 46,000 Bitcoin, more than 2 million Ethereum, 292,000 Litecoin, 56,000 Bitcoin Cash, 648,000 EOS, and a few other lesser-known digital assets from victims. As a result, it was calculated in the report that fraudsters stole a total of 7.769 billion yuan, about 1.1 billion US dollars, for fraudulent projects from their members. Some of the defendants already had criminal histories. According to information obtained, the duration of imprisonment can range from 6 months to 11 years, although criminals demand an unexplained fine for their actions. However, due to the complexity of this case, the court suspended the case in May 14th, and the case will continue to be discussed next week. Regarding the price of Bitcoin, Plus Token has been named as one of the major causes of the March 2020 decline, resulting in the worst day Bitcoin has seen for years. On March 12, 2020, the primary cryptocurrency fell below 50% to over 50%. What? It's not yet clear whether Woe Token will have a similar devastating price effect. Probably not, especially if they were actually caught. Usually the coins can be returned to the victims, assuming, of course, the scammers still have it. But yeah, there's going to be scammers and scammery and flimflammery in crypto. It's money. What do you want? People want to steal the money. They don't want to actually work for the money. And if you're silly enough to give it to them, that's your fault. Anyway, continuing on. I got this next thing here. It's on CoinDesk. And I have something really kind of bigger that I want to get into, and we might actually get into the article that will preface it. I don't know if we'll actually get into the patent itself, but we may, just to see how it measures up against other legacy patents in this space. Anyway, this one's on CoinDesk.com. Company that sued FTX and Ripple now sets its sights on BitMEX. And this is on May 18th, 2020 at 1909 UTC. And this is by Danny Nelson. So yes, penis. BMA LLC, the Puerto Rican company that 2 weeks ago filed suit against Ripple, has accused the BitMEX derivatives exchange of orchestrating the largest financial crime in American history. The little-known firm, formerly known as Bitcoin Manipulation Abatement and controlled by Pavel Pogodin, filed suit in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California on Saturday, alleging that HDR Global Trading, the parent company of BitMEX, perpetrated a vast racketeering conspiracy designed to reap billions in illegal profit. This plot featured wire fraud, money laundering, unlicensed money transmission, interstate transport of stolen property, and violations of the Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Organizations Act, or RICO, BMA alleges. In a statement, an HDR representative said the company was aware of the complaint, quote, which is clearly rehashed from information culled from the internet, and that it would be defending itself, quote, vigorously against this spurious claim. BMA has recently emerged as a serial filer of claims against companies operating in the cryptocurrency space, and is widely recognized for operating just like a patent troll. The statement added, quote, we will deal with this complaint through a normal litigation process and are entirely confident the court will see the claim for what it is. BitMEX's failure to secure a money transmitter license and its ties to U.S. customers means it processed $3 billion in illicit finances each day, BMA alleges, quote, which is the record volume for such unlawful activity in the entire history of the monetary regulation in the United States. No, that would be the creation of the Federal Reserve Note. BMA also alleges BitMEX manipulated the cryptocurrency markets by artificially boosting the price of Bitcoin. The exchange allegedly traded against customers, tied its future indices to illiquid spot market exchanges that it would then manipulate and capitalize on its schemes with staged technical glitches that prevented customers from exiting their positions. The plaintiff fired shots over BitMEX's 100x leverage trading options and said founder Arthur Hayes was, quote, cryptocurrency's P.T. Barnum. Oh, that's interesting. Quote, describing trading on cryptocurrency as entertainment business, Hayes has embraced a role as a showman and promoter for the degenerate gamblers he solicits and encourages speculative trading by flaunting his lavish lifestyle and making bold predictions designed to elicit responses and move the market in a way that is profitable for BitMEX, BMA claimed in the suit. Well, so they're seeing to their own best interests. That's what they're supposed to do as a business, right? whether or not they're doing so fraudulently or in an untoward or illegal or immoral, unethical manner, I would say that remains to be seen. BMA and Pogodin have gone after cryptocurrency headliners before. In November, BMA targeted FTX on accusations of price manipulation before voluntarily dismissing its case just over a month later. Earlier in May, BMA launched proceedings against Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple Labs for an alleged $1.1 billion violation of U.S. securities law in its XRP token sale. That one might actually stick. And it's because Brad Garlinghouse, XRP, Ripple Labs, they've all run afoul with the SEC previously because of the way they they initiated the distribution of their coin, and I don't think they've officially ironed out the nature of Ripple Labs, other than to state that their principal means of acquiring income is selling Ripple, XRP. So I mean, that kind of makes them an issuer of securities. And they haven't been held to account for that. But I do believe that's something that will end up getting resolved, either through lawsuits that bear out information concerning the operations of Ripple Labs, that would bring it into the light of day what their level of non-compliance or violation of regulations has been. And at that point, then the SEC will probably have a much better case for going after them. And at that point, they will have to get fucking licensed really quick in a lot of jurisdictions, and they are going to be facing, I believe, the same level of regulatory scrutiny that we've already seen put up in front of Libra. Because if you look into the way that Ripple is supposed to operate and how they pimp their services and whatnot, I knew right off the bat that it was going to be scammy, and that at one point or another it would be drawn into some sort of regulatory scrutiny, if not be the catalyst for the destruction of both fiat and cryptocurrency markets. And I'm not entirely convinced that's not going to happen. So, I've never been a really big fan of Ripple. I've put money into it only to take money back out of it before. I've made money on it, not going to lie, but that's just because I'm a degenerate cryptocurrency trader and I like to make money. I'm not going to hide that shit. But at the same time, I like to look out for this space because it's in my best interest to do so. And so, when I look at Ripple, I think, like I said, that at one point or another, they're either going to have to get fully legit, i.e. be fully licensed under all of the regulatory laws that they are currently in breach of, or they will have to dissolve, one of the two. Because otherwise, they're going to end up in court. And they're going to end up behind fucking prison bars. There are a number of reasons why Bitcoin was started the way that it was. And one of the reasons was this, that if Satoshi Nakamoto or the grouping that started Bitcoin, the initial grouping that started Bitcoin, were to have incorporated, they would suddenly be legal entities that could be brought into account and held liable for all kinds of violations. In the terms of this, the SEC's primary charter would have identified Satoshi and or the grouping that identified itself by incorporation. They would be the ones that are held liable for anything that goes wrong with Bitcoin. They would also be the ones that are targeted by regulators for securities violations, such as being an unlicensed money transmitter, being an unlicensed securities issuer, so on and so forth. There's already a stack of different laws or different regions of financial law that and monetary regulation that Satoshi Nakamoto and that group knew that they were facing. And it's one of the reasons why they didn't create a fucking Bitcoin Labs, you know? But Ripple thought that they were really smart and they could get around all that bullshit. Well, no. Just because you're running faster than most and you've got enough money in your pocket that you can kind of stave a lot of things off, it's not going to hold it off forever. At some point or another, Ripple Labs is going to have to end up getting licensed as a securities issuer. I don't know. I'm convinced that will be the least of their worries as far as regulations are concerned. Even if they hadn't been operating in a fraudulent manner, even if they were fully compliant, their books are 100% fully legit, it won't matter. That'll just be records supporting why they should get a license. You know, so like in the case of, say, BitLicense, you know, they would be able to, and Ripple Labs would be very long. If they don't already have a BitLicense, they would be a likely candidate to get one. And again, only because they've operated in a legitimate enough manner, I would say, to stay in business all this time. And they've been in business for a little while now. So, you know, it's all about your behavior, you know. I mean, there are plenty of other projects that had just a scammy beginning, but actually had much more scammy endings, and have gone by the wayside since. So I think it's kind of a tribute to Ripple that they are still around, that they aren't all in shackles or behind bars somewhere. But I think that status is only temporary, that at one point or another they are going to be facing such, and you know, maybe their business practices to date will act as a credit to them because they have been marshaling billions of dollars on the open market. And billions more have been circulated in XRP all over the planet. But at the same time, all of that liability could have been done away with. They could have just existed as somewhat like the Bitcoin Foundation or what's that other group? Blockstream. You know, they could have had that kind of perspective with regard to XRP and just been managing a volume of it and slowly dispersing it for development costs only. But no, they wanted to pimp themselves as a blockchain for the banks. They pimped themselves to banks. They got accepted by a lot of banks. Only they did so by sidestepping a lot of regulatory definitions in neat little ways that, you know, maybe on the surface, maybe in paper, might confuse things a little bit, or at least enough to where they can pass regulatory muster, but in function, in practice, observed over time, I believe that they will have shown themselves to be an entity that falls under several classifications that would put them under regulatory frameworks that they are not currently participating in, or licensed in, or registered with. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on it, though. How it will express in real time, I don't know. Because, I mean, we've got shit like stable coins, which I consider all to be fraudulent, every single one of them. I don't care by what magic you claim to be linking US dollars to crypto, but I will say that I believe it's all manipulation. And either you don't have the money, or, yeah, I don't believe you're fully collateralized. I don't believe in the one-to-one backing or any of that other bullshit. And so, with those things being out there, and their issuers not being counted as securities issuers, or not being registered or licensed as such, I believe it's just as big a fraud as if Ripple Labs were to be getting away with issuing securities. And so it's really about what the market wants to hold you account for. And I think a lot of the challenges that Ripple is facing in court right now are kind of spurious, and I think that for the most part that they will they will fail only because Ripple Labs has a cadre of good lawyers. But if they don't, you gotta wonder what else that's going to mean for crypto. And I would be willing to bet if there were a negative outcome for Ripple Labs in one of these civil or criminal court cases, that it will have a quote-unquote ripple effect, and things like stablecoins will be brought under the proper regulatory scrutiny, and a lot of them are going to be facing the same guns that Ripple has, and they're not going to survive it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music, and I got some Nevermore rolling in the background, but I want to go with some Sixth. Let's see here. Let's go with Philistine Philosophies by Sixth here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with No Way to Deny It. And I do expect that's going to be the case, that there will be no way to deny it. Yeah. And so, as far as where we're going to go next, let's see here. Covered the Plus token scam. Covered Ripple. Yeah, that's one thing we're going to get into. That's what we're going to get into there. And I think we might have already gone through this one. We might have actually covered this last week, or at least the beginning of it. That Visa had applied for a digital dollar blockchain project, or patent rather. And I don't know. I've mentioned this multiple times that I believe that the Lightning Network and other off-chain solutions are just basically avenues for entities such as Visa to be utilizing public open blockchains for their own private interests, and it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I think it's kind of interesting the way that they're trying to go about it. But there was a mention, and I can't remember exactly where it was, that Ethereum was going to be involved in this thing. Yeah, here it is. I was trying to figure out exactly where it was. So, where to begin with it? Let's start with the first chronological mention of this. It's on Forbes, oddly enough, on May 14th, 2020 at 2:18 p.m. EDT. Visa applies for digital dollar blockchain patent. I'm not sure whether or not we actually read this, but we're going to at least sample it and find out. And this is by Jason Brett. So yes, penis. Continuing. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, published today that Visa has filed a patent application to create digital currency on a computerized or a centralized computer using blockchain technology. This patent applies to digital dollars as well as other central bank digital currencies such as pounds, yen, and euros, and so the physical currency of a central bank anywhere in the world could be digitized. Described as digital fiat currency, the patent was initially filed by Visa on November 8, 2019, with the USPTO commenting today, quote, "It takes quite a while to publish the filing of a patent. Visa's patent is described as a central entity computer that receives requests that include the serial number and denomination of a physical currency. The creation of the digital currency and the removal of the physical currency from circulation in a fiat currency system is recorded on a blockchain. Quote, Visa has a vast global team of inventors and innovators working on cutting-edge payment technologies. Each year we seek patents for hundreds of new ideas, says a Visa spokesperson. Quote, while not all patents will result in new products or features, Visa respects intellectual property, and we are actively working to protect our ecosystem, our innovations, and the Visa brand. Yeah, by putting up a whole bunch of defensive patents. Let's see here. J. Christopher Giancarlo. Seems to me he was some sort of federal regulator or something. J. Christopher Giancarlo, senior counsel at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, and former chairman of the U.S. Commodities Futures Trading Commission, commented on Visa's patent filed with the USPTO. Quote, this confirms when the U.S. does big things like space program and the internet, there are partnerships between the private and public sector. This patent filing is evidence the private sector is very much at work on the future of money. Giancarlo has been very active at the virtual consensus distributed conference this week, hosted by CoinDesk. Congress considered the idea of a digital dollar when debating the CARES Act, the third COVID-19 relief package. Although the digital dollar was not included in the final legislation, separate bills have been introduced in both the House and the Senate that looks to legally create a digital dollar at the Federal Reserve and also a digital dollar wallet at the U.S. Treasury. The digital dollar was suggested to provide economic stimulus benefits and possibly universal basic income to Americans. The full abstract of the patent filed by Visa is described as, quote, techniques are disclosed which include receiving by a central entity computer a request for digital currency. The request includes a serial number and a denomination of a physical currency. The central entity computer generates the digital currency for the denomination and linked to the serial number. Visa's patent goes on to state, quote, the generating includes recording the digital currency on a blockchain. The central entity computer transmits a notification of the generation of the digital currency. The central entity computer causes removal of the physical currency from circulation in a fiat currency system. An image of the patent listing is listed below. The patent lists the application as the, quote, Visa International Service Association in San Francisco, California, and notes the investors as Simon J. Hurry and Alexander Pierre. The patent further describes the workings of a digital wallet and a blockchain. The digital wallet includes a public and private key pair, while the blockchain is described as, quote, including a plurality of blocks, with at least one block of the plurality of blocks, storing data for a plurality of transactions, including a first record indicating that the digital currency for an amount associated with the denomination has been created, as well as a public key associated with a digital wallet. The second record in the blockchain describes, quote, recording the removal of the physical currency from circulation, a schematic including the front end, middleware, and back end of the invention is below. And I'm looking at it, And I can already see two flaws with their idea. But anyway, continuing on. Visa's crypto and blockchain ventures. Visa has made previous major announcements keeping a close eye on the cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem. Last year, Visa was originally announced as a member of the new Libra Association established by Facebook until it withdrew in October, along with a number of other companies. Also in June of last year, Visa announced it was entering the $125 trillion cross-border business-to-business transactions market using distributed ledger technology to make payments faster, cheaper, and more transparent. The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, or SWIFT, a Belgian organization started in 1973 with 11,000 financial institutions, currently serves 11,000 financial institutions conducting B2B businesses or business transactions. However, SWIFT has been criticized for its legacy systems and inefficiencies. They have a 33% failure rate in the digital era, mind you. Nothing fails that much in the digital era unless it's designed to. Continuing on. Additionally, in February of this year, Visa announced it had granted permission to Coinbase, a cryptocurrency exchange, permitting them to issue a debit card where individuals could spend their crypto through the card. The full application for the patent by Visa is listed below, and I think we've actually read that patent on this show. And like I said, I can see two points of failure in here, and just by the description of what they're talking about. For one thing, if there are any transactions associated with these funds on a public blockchain, they will be attacked, because the transactions will probably be big enough to be worth attacking. They're not going to be for a couple $100. No. The setup transactions for these kind of systems are going to involve millions of dollars worth of Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever the transaction is involving. Whichever system it's done on, or blockchain. But anyway, like I said, it would set these transactions in particular up for targeting. And so that's one attack surface. The other one is this idea that the issuance of these notes is going to be associated directly with the termination or destruction of physical notes. See, this is another attack surface, because there is nothing, no way to definitively associate a transaction on a blockchain, centralized or not, with a physical activity, specifically one involving physical items that are outside of the server or the nodes or the network that the transactions are happening on. That's all these systems can do, is take digital notation of things. Now you can take video of something and claim that there's information that's in it that will claim that it's directly associated with the transaction on a blockchain. You can do that. But you can also pantomime all that shit. And if you can pantomime it quickly, or just as quickly, if not quicker, than the processing of the transaction on your blockchain, or introduce the fraudulent data as quickly as ordinary data, you can deceive the network. For all they know, you're burning fucking fraudulent paper certificates that were never US dollars to begin with. But they've got a video of you burning stacks of fucking paper. Looks like you're burning US dollars, and associated with this, $125 trillion worth of Visa coin that you just supposedly printed up out of nothing. And so the validity of the value, as noted, of these units is at question. Because if the physical units that they're associated with are never actually burnt, you've just created an additional $125 trillion. You haven't neutralized any of it. You just created another mass of it. And so now it's on two different ledgers. The $125 trillion in US dollars, it'll end up somewhere else. It'll get circulated as money somewhere else, completely outside of the system, completely disassociated with it, because for all the Federal Reserve knows, those notes are no longer in circulation. They no longer exist. They were deleted when we created the We created the $125 trillion in Ethereum tokens, and that's supposed to eliminate the $125 trillion US dollars that are actually physically present somewhere. I'm sure that those of you out there that got more than two brain cells to rub together can put this one together, where this will create a situation whereby the debasement of either the US dollar or any other fiat currency in circulation would be entirely possible. And all that has to happen is people hoarding the fucking US dollars or whatever other currency it is, and just holding back and then dumping a whole bunch of them on the market. All of a sudden the US dollar's in worse shit. Because, everybody's got fucking wheelbarrows to carry it around in. I don't know. I look at all of this stuff and I really see in it a lot of the hallmarks that were called for policy-wise in things like Agenda 21 and what's that other one? The Green New Deal. Like, if you look at the intended effects of these pieces of legislation, these policies, you can see where a lot of the policies are being enacted without any kind of legislation review or any legislative review at all. It's like in my state, the Supreme Court, or a court in the state today, voted down the governor's ability to have executive powers, because according to our laws, if there is any initiation of emergency powers, they only last 30 days unless there's an associated vote by the state legislature granting her or him a greater period of time. And along with it, though, is supposed to be an exit strategy or a de-escalation of those powers. And that process has never taken place. And so that was put to the court today, and they voted down her unconstitutional authorities. However, before the end of the legal day, before the end of the court business for the day, she managed to get it rammed through the Supreme Court, an extension of her dictatorial powers. And so it's like, what kind of reaction are you supposed to have to something like that? I'm trying to do a business, and all of a sudden, I can't do business, and then all of a sudden I can do business, then I can't do business. And I think it's those kind of things that are just going to cause people to disassociate entirely out of the system. They won't stop doing business. They'll just stop doing business in US dollars. But I think that these economic controls that we're talking about now, imagine this lockdown, okay? But instead of having physical US dollars in circulation that people are able to continue business on, imagine all of that's been replaced with digital dollars. And so when the government says you are now shut down and you cannot do business, you literally cannot do business, because they will just literally shut down your ability to circulate money, to actually conduct commerce on their networks with their tokens. And when you think about that, though, That doesn't apply to Bitcoin. That doesn't apply to Litecoin. That doesn't apply to 5,000 other cryptocurrencies out there that are currently in operation. And so when you really think about it, you can kind of understand where Bitcoin represents a greater threat than most people contemplate, is because these people, the people that are imposing the shutdown right now, they plan to have this as a tool in the future that they are going to be able to use on us and use on you and say, no, you can't do business unless you comply with these conditions. If you don't get a vaccination and a certification saying that you're vaccinated, we're going to terminate your wallet and you're not going to be able to circulate US coin at all. You're not going to be able to buy food or pay your rent or anything else because you're out of compliance. That is the level of control that they're seeking to create with these tools. And I mean, only a fucking idiot can't see that. And I consider it really, really fortunate that we do have things like Bitcoin. And we do have other cryptocurrencies that the public is free to mine and copy and create alternatives to and mine. And we're going to need that capability going forward. Because like I said, they intend to use this shit in conjunction with being able to use the police to come to your business and physically stop you from doing things, or using police to physically seize you to prevent you from doing things, or just to take your ass to jail for being out of compliance. That they would have the tools that they would be able to tell the police, you will either follow orders and you will fucking go out and you will gather those people and you will put them in fucking cattle cars and take them off to fucking work camps, or we will stop your ability to transact. It's that whole mark of the beast shit, except writ large and brought to the digital era. And that's the kind of thing that I believe will cause a decoupling, a financial decoupling of the physical economy from the digital economy. The only digital economy it'll be breaking free of is national digital economies, and it'll be resorting to global digital economies that expand beyond the realm and reach of national digital currencies and systems. Got to really thank Satoshi Nakamoto for that one, because he was thinking way ahead of the curve. Yeah, that's pretty much the way I see it. I think that these third-party intermediaries were going to be there's still an attempt to assert this. They haven't abandoned this plan, so don't get all cushy and all comfortable and whatnot. I believe they'll try it again. It's like an incremental thing. They get a little bit farther this time, and a little bit farther next time, and a little bit farther the next time after that. But I don't think we're actually going to get pushed to it. It's like the yin yang. Where the harder you push on one side, the more you push the pressure to another place where you're not applying as much pressure. And I think we've run out of like non-soft targets to be applying pressure to. And I think that's going to get really uncomfortable for the people trying to impose that rule on us. Anyway, I got a little bit more here on that, and I'm going to skip over the patent itself, because I'm almost certain we've already read it, especially if it's been in circulation since 2019. I could probably go and find the episode for it right now on my channel. Anyway, I got this thing. It's on the Merkle.com. Visa taps Ethereum to build its digital dollar infrastructure. And this is by J.P. Buntix, and it was authored May 16th, 2020. Visa remains the world's leading credit and debit card issuer in the world. That company is also looking to enter the world of virtual money, and it seems the Ethereum blockchain will play a crucial role in the research. So in other words, they want to use Ethereum to figure everything out and then they want to try and do it on their own. That's hilarious. Let's see. It has been a long time coming, but for a while now, the whole world will transition to virtual money to some degree. That can only happen if sufficient service providers develop systems to accommodate this change. Visa is one of the first big names to effectively unveil its plans for a digital dollar, among other currencies. The current objective is to digitize the dollar through a blockchain-based system built on top of Ethereum. How far along those plans are at this stage remains a bit unclear. A patent has been filed for this particular issue and solution, indicating that it may be put to real-world use once approved. The choice for Ethereum is a very interesting one by Visa, to say the least. It makes some sense, as Ethereum's infrastructure is primarily aimed at coders, developers, and enthusiasts looking to build projects and services with blockchain. As little information is available right now, more details are expected to be released in the coming months. So I think it's really interesting that they are tapping Ethereum, but like I said, that exposes them on another front, and this would probably explain a little bit of the uncertainty as to whether or not they're eventually going to use Ethereum. Is that currently Ethereum is, or I shouldn't even say currently, because it's been going on for like two plus years now, where the Ethereum developers have been wanting to push the network to be proof of stake, despite the fact that it's all dependent on a proof of work network currently. Now, they've been trying to get the miners to switch over to proof of stake, and they may actually succeed at that at some point in the future. But with that indeterminate nature being up in the air, and see, I think the way they expect it to roll out is this: that Ethereum will switch over to proof of stake, and that they will dominate it via the stake itself. You know, that because they'll be a majority stakeholder, that they'll receive the vast majority of any subsequent staking funds, so on and so forth. However, I think that the open nature of Ethereum, because most of its development happens out in the open, out in the wild, that whatever exploits are found in their shit is going to be exploited publicly too. And so yeah, I think that over the long term they're going to figure out that if they're going to do it at all, they need to be doing it in-house solely, and that it will alter their current regulatory exposure. And I think that the international nature of cryptocurrencies and the way that it would change their business structure, I think it might end up being too expensive for them. You know, like if you were to place Visa and you were to put on Visa, hey, we want you to apply for a bit license, and we want you to adhere to the regulatory constraints of bit license. And that would be absolutely mandatory of them if they were to come into crypto. I can guarantee you right now that unless they maintain their current cushy relationships with everybody they've got in Wall Street and within the Principality of New York or State of New York, they are not going to get their bit license. Because I don't believe that they could possibly endure the regulatory scrutiny that's being required of crypto companies. I would say the same of any entity that, including Lawsky's himself. I don't think any of the entities in Legacy Finance, if they had to apply for a bit license right now, would be able to get one without having some sort of undue connection with either the NYDFS or the issuer of the current issuer of licenses, basically. So yeah, I think that that Visa will end up dropping this ball, because their best way to do it is a way that they won't do it, which is a completely open source alternative. Allow the public to mine it, allow the public to dev it, and that they maintain only like a foundational support of it. And when I say a foundational support, I mean like the Bitcoin Foundation, where they could say a whole bunch of stuff, but whether or not the network actually does it is a whole different story. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. I'm feeling the need to put some food in my gut. And as far as where to go, feeling the need for some Death Clock. So here it is, Awaken, here on Coin Metal. And that was Powerman 5000 with Bombshell. So, we're coming to the end, and I was actually hoping to get just another additional article in, but it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to fit it in. Maybe on Wednesday. But yeah, that's pretty much as far as pretty much what I've got for the evening. I want to thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, I want y'all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I think that we can fit in some Tool. And so that's exactly where we're going to go with it. Scrolling. And there it is, Vicarious, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.